Capital City Podcast, back in your ear hole, baby. I'm your main man, Capital J, alongside my main man.
DL Glass.
Yep. So first off, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this is Andre Willis, a man who admittedly got caught out there, but he has a very interesting story, and I don't even want to step on that. I want to let you tell your story, man, from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? You got the floor right now, and tell the people who you are, what happened, because
Okay,
it's very interesting story.
okay. I heard you did your research on it too. Huh.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As soon as we found out, we started doing research. So we're gonna probably ask you a few questions along the way.
Okay, it sounds good. So that it lets you know it ain't nothing made up. It's a true story. Uh, since you did your research, I'm glad that you did. Um, Nothing is made up, straight from the hip. Um, Actually, I was a square in high school until early adulthood. Um, how I got started, my mom and my grandma bought me invested into a janitorial service. So we owned our own janitorial service. And of course, I had several contracts, and that's how I was making my living. But I let my god sister borrow my car, and she wrecked it and totaled it out. So it came that I lost all my contracts, and I actually became homeless.
Oh man.
And yeah, and her husband, which is a very close friend of mine. We tell everybody we cousins, but I actually met him playing little league football. And he came to me one day um, after I got my eviction notice, and he was asking the bar. I had about $500 cash back then. That was back in '87. So he came to me and asked me to borrow $250, and he told me he'll bring me $50 back in 30 minutes. So I took the chance, gave him the 250. He brought me $300 back, and he said, "Well, I need to borrow the 250 again, and I'm gonna bring you another 100, but this time another 50. I'm sorry, and this time you can go with me."
I want to ask one
So
question. What
yes, sir.
what year was this?
This was in '87.
Okay, we like to timestamp everything.
Right. So that's 1987. So I rode with him, and he went and bought an 8 ball at the time. He was buying 8 balls, and he gave me 300 back right away. So I'm like, man, I done made $100 in an hour. I've been slaving, doing contracts, and definitely wasn't making $100 an hour. So back then, $100 was, pretty decent money back in the '87.
Hmm.
So we started buying 8 balls, and we would stack them up. Of course, we would cook some up into crack, but we would split half and half in crack and powder. So we were going to this little city called Beaufort, Georgia, and we would go up there every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and we would buy an 8 ball, or as the money grow, we got up to like a quarter ounce. So we were selling that on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So
Hey, I'm sorry. Could you answer a question for me?
yeah,
So
yeah.
because of like the conversation about the music and crack, what's
hmm
going on musically in Atlanta at this time? And you'll figure out why I keep asking that same question throughout the podcast. But what was happening musically in Atlanta?
Well, we didn't have hip hop in Atlanta back then. It was mainly hip hop started in New York. So back then it was New York hip hop. Of course, you had um, a little NWA and the little West Coast stuff. But as far as down south, there was no. hip hop down south.
Just
V
Luke.
one hundred three V103 only played R&B music.
Okay.
They didn't play hip hop. So the music scene, as far as that goes, you know, you had the local people starting out copying from New York and the West Coast, but again, that's just local. So they wasn't on radio play and all that stuff. They were back then. They were doing what they call mixtapes, because back then, you know, we had the little cassette tapes, and then eventually they came out with the CDs. But you could go to this shop called Edward J Shop, and they go and you could buy the mix tape rap, you know, and they feature local artists, of course. So the hip hop scene back then was zero.
Can you bring him back?
Right.
Back in '87.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it was. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. We, like I said, we like to timestamp everything, man. So, so you on from the 8 ball onto the quarter.
Right. So eventually, as time went on, you know, I started buying quarter keys, and you know, grew over time. But in '88, I met my best friend. Name was Julius. Julius was from Detroit, and he eventually became my plug as far as getting my cocaine from. But go ahead.
Is this a Julius? What's the last name?
Klein.
Okay, I remember reading about that. Okay, just a character from the story. Okay.
Right. So, by Atlanta being my city, he was from Detroit, but I started buying cocaine from him on a regular basis, and he was like, man, I can't keep running back and forth like this. So I was like, okay, well, why don't you do this? Why don't we do this? You take the business side, and I'll take the street side. And what you do as far as business side, I'm going to invest, but I'm not going to be frequently visiting our clubs, because I didn't want to mix the street side with the business side. Because, you know, back then they would come in and take all your stuff, you know, as far as your businesses and your assets and all that stuff.
Right.
So our first club was Dion's and Dominique's 21.
Okay, and this is Atlanta.
Yeah, this is in Atlanta. So we invested in that club and opened it up. At first it was Dominique's 21. Then it became Dion's 21 because of some personal / business bumping heads.
Right.
So after Dominique and Dion's, we did a jazz club called the Parrot. And in the midst of the Parrot, there was a comedy club called Zazu's also. So the Parrot was the Parrot was very successful. And eventually we opened the Phoenix Dance Club, which was a hip hop club, which was 1992. Now, hip hop was again still local, but we reached out and got artists coming from New York. We had Biggie, P. Diddy did his Bad Boy South launch party from there. We broke Criss Cross there. Lil Jon at the time was my DJ, which we had several other DJs also.
Nice.
So Lil Jon was not even legal to be in the club because he was so young.
Nice. This is the story. These are the stories we want to get down to the nitty gritty with too, man. I love hearing about the early days because cats, this is inspirational for other cats. Everybody started off like that in the
Right,
club somewhere.
right. So, but John was the DJ. And again, my mind at the time was in the streets because the streets was bringing me more money than the hip hop club.
Right.
Right.
So once the club was open, Mary J. Blige did our grand opening. We gave her her first concert in Atlanta. Period.
What was the ticket on that?
It was a promo. So again, Julius at the time was living. So I don't know how much she was paid because again, just like I say, I was more on the street
Right.
side at
Right.
that time. So I was just invested.
Mm-hmm.
So once she did the grand opening, which was July of 1992, again, just like I say, hip hop was not recognized in the city of Atlanta.
Right.
So
Can I jump in real quick? That was Mary J, Heavy D. It was Mary J and Heavy D and Kid Capri. Heavy D actually introduced her that night, and Kid Capri was the DJ.
Oh,
well,
nah.
I'm glad you're on the phone, Tyler, because again, just like I say, I wasn't on the club business side. I was again on the street side.
So what was the
Go ahead.
How did they get you? Like how did they sell you over to start investing your money into clubs though? Because the scene wasn't there yet. As far as hip hop, I know y'all were having clubs open before hip hop came as big as it did. But what made you? That's my question. Like what made you want to invest in clubs?
So at the end of the day, back then we have what we call trust and street codes.
Mm-hmm.
So by my partner is on the business side. Now we making good money on the drug side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, whatever you decide to do, I'm gonna follow, and I'm gonna invest.
Okay.
So again, my mind is still on the street side. The little money that I'm investing into the club ain't nothing. It's just money to clean up.
Right.
Okay, I'm getting a cut from a legitimate business. That's all I want to do so I can report it on tax.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's strictly business.
It was strictly business.
Word.
Yeah. Nothing. Yeah, strictly business.
But even though you was street, your upbringing, because I heard you mention earlier that your family had a janitorial service. So
well, they bought me the janitorial service. Yeah.
I'm sorry that they bought you the janitorial service. So the level, I think that's one thing that we sometimes lack is the knowledge to succeed at business, and because
right.
I think you're a very smart businessman. But you keep saying it's street. I understand it is street, but it's also operating as a business. That's what you were doing early on, and
right.
that's the genius part of, everything that happened during that time when crack basically took over our community. Because I'm one of those people. I say that this was one of the worst times for our people, but from a musical standpoint, I think we got some of the best music that will ever be made during that time, and it's continuing to live on. And
that's true.
So, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just gonna say that I applaud our people for being able to make that happen. That just shows that because like the drug dealer. Like, although society calls them the drug dealer, but if you got to the level of the feds and stuff back in the 90s or whatever, that means that you were operating a business to the point that you got their attention, not just the IRS, but the FBI, and you was thinking about it, about being able to report the taxes on your dope money. That's dope. I remember the first time I found that out. Sorry for real, I was amazed at, but you know what I'm saying, like how to flip money and invest it in things. It's
Right.
amazing.
So my goal was to bring enough revenue legitimately so I can come out of the street.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, just like I say, my upbringing or my thoughts in growing up was to have my own business and be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So investing in the club allowed me to generate money to be able to report on taxes and to help me become more legitimate. However, I had at the time 4 different women. I got 6 girls and 3 boys now. So each one of those women had their own houses, they had their own cars, and plus I always kept me a loft downtown for myself. For myself. So
Stun
so
if you
know,
want.
it's like if I don't want to be bothered, hell, I just go downtown and chill out. Nobody knows where I'm at.
Right.
So I took everything more as a business, as you say. Although, yes, will we putting poison out or what have you, as society say, is poison? Yes, it was. At first, it became a survival mode for me to be able to come off of the street. And my mind back then as a youngster was saying, well, if I don't sell it to them, somebody else is going to sell it. So I might as well get the money, which was the wrong way to look at things. But I never had traps or stood on the street corner besides when we went to Buford. But once I got enough money and started buying weight, I never sold like dimes and nicks and 20s and 50s and stuff. I didn't do that. Right. So my goal was to open up enough businesses to cover my expenses that I had as far as living. So going back to the Phoenix, which was the biggest club. Well, Dominique's and Dion's was very big too, but in bringing hip hop to Atlanta,
it was the Phoenix.
It was the Phoenix dance club. I don't know. Tommy might can elaborate more on it, but the Lumberjack, I think that was part of Outkast or something. I don't know.
He did Leaders of the New School, Yo-Yo, Scarface, Bushwick Bill, Tabarank, Rakim, Criss Cross, Mary J. Yes, the Lumberjack, the Mighty RSO from Boston.
They had Benzino, didn't it?
Yep, Benzino. Yeah, Benzino was down there because he used to bring the magazine. He would come. That's who brought Mighty RSO, Benzino.
See, I'm learning something new now myself.
I said Shabba Rank. Shoot, and then
I think they say Busta Rhymes was there.
Yeah, that was Leaders of the New School. Busta Rhymes was in Leaders of the New School at the time.
Okay, so that's to elaborate on that. In between time of the Phoenix opening and the Leaders of the New School coming to perform at the Phoenix, Julius was murdered in Detroit.
Oh no.
Yeah, he was murdered in Detroit. So in order to protect my investment, now I got to step up and be the face of the club.
Okay.
So, so
Wait a
you
minute,
know,
how much? What was the count? Because we was just at quarter keys. So where we at now in the selling of drugs?
oh, we up to 20, 20 keys, maybe a week at that time. Yeah, well, I was because I was moving all of it anyway. But how I became known as one of the owners, they needed to, you know, what they call it, a rider or whatever they call it, where you pay the initial fee up front for them to come, and then before they get on the stage, you got to pay them the other half.
Yeah, tell you
So,
everything they want.
right. So I got the call and say, well, hey, look, we still need 20 grand to make this performance happen.
This for Buster?
So
And who's this for Buster?
leaders of the new school.
Leaders of the new school.
You know,
Gotcha.
yeah. So, you know, I don't know. You know, I just like I say, I wasn't into all that. So I was like, okay, well, I'll bring the money down there. He said, well, this is when you will get introduced as the owner of the club. So I get my little 20, throw it on my shoulder, walk down, you know, drive down to the Phoenix, walk in the office, put the money on the desk, and say, okay, go pay the people whoever performed. And that's when I was introduced as the owner, one of the owners of the Phoenix.
But at that time, you were selling 20 keys a week.
Oh, yeah, we was going, yeah. Well, I was, again.
And how much was a key back then?
Back then, a key probably was like 18.5, somewhere around there.
Your re-up was 400,000.
Yeah, basically. Basically, if you round it off. Yeah, if you round it off, yeah.
So this is the kind of money that it takes to, you know, I got people always coming to me talking about starting a club and whatnot. I'm like, look, man, take some real money because you got to be able to afford to not win.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Just being
Exactly.
honest.
And see, the Phoenix held 3,500 people. And we had state-of-the-art back then equipment, speakers, DJ booths, just you know, state-of-the-art stuff. That's why everybody came to the Phoenix, because the Phoenix was nice. You didn't have to have a dress code for none of that.
Right.
That was one of the only clubs in Atlanta that you can come that you didn't have to have a dress code, where you come in your sneakers, you can come in your T-shirts and blue jeans,
Yeah.
or what have you. We kept a sold out. The Phoenix stayed packed. Let me put it like that.
I went
and
to
we had.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
didn't interrupt you, man.
No. Go ahead.
I went to Freaknik down there in 1993, and I think it was just. I think that was probably that spot we went to. It was just so many people, you couldn't even get close to it. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man,
Right.
no need
Right.
to even bother with that. You know?
Right. Right.
But
So I came up with the idea that once we build the clientele up for the hip hop and generate, you know, the crowd, we were going to close it down. The first floor was going to be a hip hop club. The second floor was going to be a jazz club, and the third floor was going to be a strip club. So, but that never happened because, again, the guy that was finding us buildings to lease out, he was a part-time judge, a former Fulton County prosecutor, a lawyer, and an accountant. And his wife found out that he was laundering money for drug dealers. So she asked for a divorce, and he was like, "You can get the divorce, but you can't take the boys with you." So once she say, "Oh, the boys are going with me," if I'm afraid for my life, where do you think I'm gonna leave my boys here with you? So he had her killed. He had her murdered. But that's a whole nother story. But that was the fall of the Phoenix because this happened in November of 1992. So we winded up closing the club in April of '93, I believe. But in going back, and I don't want to get off course to what what the subject is as far as the crack and the cocaine epidemic back then, and how it was, how a lot of things was used. You had a bunch of studios around here, but when you an artist, once if you want a record label, I had a record label. Rashida was with a group. She was in high school. How I discovered Rashida was we had open mic contests every week at the Phoenix, and they were in high school. So we would sneak them in the back door, and they would perform. And once they get through performing, they would sneak them back out the back door and take them home. But my thing was, whoever win this open mic contest, I'm gonna sign them to my record label, which was Extra Large Records back then. So they winded up winning the open mic contest over the weeks that we did it. So I signed them to Extra Large Records. Now, unbeknownst to me, again, my mind in the street, I'm trying to build my empire, my legitimate stuff, so I can come out the street. I did not know that they were recording at D-Lo Studios, which happens to be Kirk's studio. So once I got arrested, Extra Large had to shut down. So that's when her and Kirk got together, and Kirk put her under his record label. So from then on, they became a couple. So, but yeah, it's a lot of history behind the Phoenix, man, as far as a lot of people that's in the hip-hop industry. The Phoenix was their platform, one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Right, and as the club is closing, like I said, that's right around Freaknik '93, the end of the era. I come back from Freaknik with a sampler from a group called Outkast that I got out there at golly, what's that big park there, where everybody was hanging out?
Piedmont?
Piedmont Park. I got a Outkast sampler from Piedmont Park. And it was probably about Christmas when they first single dropped later. So, Phoenix nightclub is right there. It's the candles going out for that as the flame for Outkast is getting lit. And from that point on, you associate hip hop with Atlanta.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. So again, we were the platform because actually Ryan Cameron used to come down and do live remote on Friday nights from V103. And we would tell the crowd that if you want to hear hip hop here in Atlanta, call the radio station and request it. Once you start requesting it, and they want to, and they know that's what you want to hear, they're gonna start playing.
Right.
So, just like I say, Phoenix was the platform of hip hop today, and a lot of rappers, the youngsters these days, they don't know the history of what it took to actually get hip hop started in Atlanta. It took a lot of work to be able to do that. We're not saying that hip hop wouldn't be in Atlanta today, but the start of hip hop started at the Phoenix.
Hey, tell me
definitely, because you gotta remember, Illegal was out. Illegal was signed in Dallas, Austin. Y'all So Stupid, Highland Place Mobsters, all of them.
They were dope. Illegal was dope.
Yes.
All of them came out. All of them came out of the Phoenix and out of Atlanta at that time. That was the movement at that time. Illegal, Highland Place Mobsters, ABC was
some
around there.
classics.
Remember, Eric Sherman had left New York and moved to Atlanta, opened up that rim shop right there in Atlanta, right around the corner from the Phoenix. On I can't remember which street he was on, but he had a rim shop right there, and his studio was in the basement.
So that brought a presence.
Right, and Outkast Studio was Bobby Brown's studio. Was Bosstown first. They got it from Bobby Brown. So what became Stankonia was Bosstown first. That was Bobby Brown's studio because he was running around Atlanta at the time with Whitney Houston. So back then it was Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown was the biggest things running around town. Then there was Dallas Austin, of course. He was going on. Then LA and them came. LaFace Records came there because Rowdy and So Def was there. Then LaFace came. LaFace came. Or all of them came right about the same time because you got Dallas and them did TLC's records. Hat to the Back. What About Your Friends? All of these is Atlanta produced records.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question for you, Andre. How you later on in life, they say hindsight is 20/20. Do you wish you could take it back and not kick Bobby Brown out standing on the couch?
Oh no, he still had to go. If we repeated it today, his ass, excuse my French, but his ass got to get out of there. Because I don't care how much money. I don't care how. I had money, so I don't care about how much money a person has or spending in a club, but you're gonna respect my stuff.
That was Bobby
Brown, you're not,
man.
You're not. But also, the Phoenix was very plush back then for a hip hop club. It was because on I think Tuesday nights or Thursday nights it was a gay club in there, so it was very plush already. The club was laid out. There wasn't a club as nice, and then it had a lot of space. I mean, shoot, Ice Cube was there. Ice Cube been to the club. I remember the night Ice Cube was there. So everybody came through there, and everybody had to behave. We had real street dudes that worked there, and so you were required to behave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to touch on the gay club, they were backdooring having gay nights in there, which Julius allowed that. But once I took over, I say, hey, look, ain't no more gay stuff going on in here. You need to find you a club or a building to take that gay stuff down the street, around the corner. I don't care what you do. I'm gonna give you the money to go do whatever it is that you want to do, but we're not gonna have that here because
a separate establishment for it.
Right, because a lot of people, and I was very homophobic back then too, because I'm like, hey, now, I don't want to be drinking out the same glasses that they drinking out of. I say, until you find your building, you got to serve out of plastic cups. You don't use these glasses.
Oh, you was hardcore with it.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah, you got 30 days to find you a building and take that on down the street.
Well, we're glad that you.
But again, I'm a youngster.
Right.
So, and I'm in the street. So, I wouldn't with none of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I'll be honest with you, when he went and found a spot, he went down Peachtree, right down there in 5 Point, and found a space to run his gay club. And actually, it only held maybe 250, 300 people. But guess what? That gay club was generating just as much money as the Phoenix was.
Right.
I bet it was.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
It really was.
Right.
But
and that changed his perspective on the whole that audience, because a lot of people had a feeling about that audience, but soon learned that there was money in that crowd too. You just had to know it all became about marketing, promotions, and collecting money and running a business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So as I got older, I say, well, who am I to judge? I'm still, I'm not gonna say against it. I'm not with it, but to each his own.
Right.
I don't turn my nose up at them or nothing. As long as you respect me and don't disrespect me, I'm gonna do the same with you.
Indeed.
But that's just your choice of life. If that's your choice, then it's your life. It's not mine to judge what you do.
Well,
So I respect that.
Well, I got a question for y'all. Coming into a market where, like, before y'all brought a real hip hop club into the scene, I know you had resistance coming into the market. I come from a smaller town in North Carolina, but my dad had a few clubs, and I've seen people open up clubs in places that didn't have clubs before or whatever. And there's always some resistance, maybe from the police, maybe from the community, or maybe from other club owners who don't want to, tell me about some of the resistance y'all had in getting a hip hop club started, especially.
Well, I can't even say, to be honest with you, I can't even say that it was any resistance because, again, we had this judge that was finding the building,
Dope question.
ex-prosecutor.
Like they was trying to spread tow cars, so it was politically correct in Atlanta, and the resistance in hip hop was more so about the police department and where you were located. Where the Phoenix was located was in an industrial area. And projects was on the backside. Technically, it was on the backside, so we wasn't bothering nobody. There was no noise, and then also back then we didn't have no problems because the owners were real street dudes.
Right,
so
right. People knew not to bring that.
Yeah, everybody knew. The streets knew, as quiet as everybody tried to keep it. The streets knew what was really going on, so there was very few real problems in the club early back then.
Right.
Very few. And the rap music back then, was totally different from the rap music today.
It was fun.
It was positive. Peace of God. We was all 5%.
Or women and spending your money and just having a good time. But today, the youngsters really act out the rap music that they listen to.
Right.
They don't take it as entertainment. They think it's cool because we got rappers today, and again, I look at it as entertainment. Mm-hmm. They talk about popping pills, drinking lean, running around with their AKs and stuff like that, which is gangster rap. But the youngsters today, they want to act that out because they think that that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
We didn't have all of that black on black crime, murders every day. I could turn on the TV right now if the news is on. First headline thing is somebody done got shot downtown or somewhere in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So.
Well, some say that that's a product of what was, and that's the era that we were talking about that influenced a lot of what's going on today. And I think not just from a social standpoint, but the arts too, and the music, and it goes right back to what I was saying about in my opinion the best music or the golden era of hip hop happened during the times that we're talking about, and everything has a direct relation to that. and that's how
Right.
powerful it was and is. And you know, the financer of it, and
The
Jay and I
financiers
talked about.
started grabbing the microphone, and that's when things started changing. You know what I'm saying?
But
Okay.
The dude
Okay.
with the money used to be behind the scenes. He finds some talent in the street and put his
Right.
money into it. And now what you got
Right.
is the people with the money just
Right.
like, I'm just going to rap myself, tell stories. And back in the day, every now and then you find a talented guy who tells stories about the game, but you also had all
Right.
these other people telling these other stories.
Right.
Now everybody
Right.
telling stories about the game. And it's like, yo, they ain't looking for talented people. They just think if I'm in the game, I'm supposed to rap about the game.
Absolutely.
Right. I agree.
And
Yeah,
and
change
the
I agree
dealers,
totally.
the dealers took the, like you said. I don't know if you remember, we talked about this, and you said the once the dealers stopped investing money into the craft, that's when the record labels.
That's when the record label said, well, this is all we gonna sell now. When we had dealers and true drug money behind all these labels and stuff, there was a lot more variety in the music that was being fed to the community. Because
Right.
because we understand that we more than one thing. But
Right.
all that's being sold to us now is sex, drugs, and guns.
I agree.
And the
I agree.
sad part is that when you talking about the early 90s, 92, 93. I'm DJ too. I've been DJ for years.
Tell
It
them how
was
long,
nothing.
son. Tell
It was
them how
nothing
long
to
you
see.
been DJing.
Yeah, I've been DJing for 30 some years, But it was nothing to see somebody get killed during that time period at the club. That happened a lot, you know what I'm saying? But what these cats don't know is that the drug selling that was going on then it was so much more of it, but it was less people rapping about it. Now everybody's rapping
Right.
about it, but the streets ain't on
Right.
fire like they used to be. I remember times I couldn't get down the street because so many crackheads, they have a line waiting to buy crack that's holding up traffic. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You don't see that anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And but now everybody's talking about like that's all we doing.
Right.
And it's like, and when that was all that was happening in the hood, that wasn't the only rap you heard.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
And now
Right.
that it's not out there anymore, that's all people talking about. And you open your door, you don't see no crackheads no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they out there, but it's not like it used to be. It used to be zombie land out here.
Yes. Now it's like that with
Yeah,
opioids.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
And it's all they can
Well-
talk about.
Right.
From a musical standpoint, I always try to tell people to let's take a moment and look at something. And if you look, the music that's selling is a direct reflection of the drug that's selling. Now, how do I qualify that statement? If you remember, in the 60s, we had acid, right? And we had the Flower Children. We had weed, and then we had the Grateful Dead. Then we had crack, and we had hip hop. Then lean came in, and look at the mumbling, the slurred speech. No, I didn't look at this.
Hey, listen,
And I see it clearly.
Tommy, I'm only laughing because I did a whole show about
Yes.
this. I mean,
Right,
I swear I'm
Yes.
laughing because you're going like I talked about how whatever drug is popular,
Yes.
listen to the music. When cocaine was
That's
hitting,
right.
everybody
Right,
listened
and
to
it's
fast
gonna
ass
tell you.
disco. You know what I'm saying?
Right. When cocaine was popping, disco was on fire. And what happens now is corporations have taken it over, and they have a specific agenda. See, when drug dealers was running it, their only agenda was to get out of selling drugs and to start
Right.
making legal money. A corporation's agenda is to hold and oppress our people down. So now there's less money. There's less money in the music business because when I was out there, I didn't drive nothing below a luxury car. I had the cars I was driving in LA. It was my $300 a day. I was renting Porsches and Vipers. People that work at record companies now are driving Toyotas. I used to look at them and go, I would be embarrassed to drive that vehicle.
I
say I
rode
worked at a
with
record
you a couple of times, Tommy.
Right,
Out there.
As a matter of fact, weren't you in Miami?
Yep.
If I recall correctly, we was at How Can I Be Down? And you said, Tommy, I missed my flight. I'm screwed. And I walked up to the counter and said, put this man on the next plane and put my American Express up there and said, send him home without even thinking about it. People can't do that today. They can't walk up there and spend money the way we could spend money in the 90s. That don't exist.
Yeah.
So that's because of a corporate agenda, though. If you look at it, I made the statement that the prosecuting attorney who arrested young Thugger and tried to give him a RICO charge should also charge Kevin Lau and Leon Cohen. Because if you're saying
Say it
he
again.
was furtherance, they called it furtherance, and they said that it was on a video, and I would argue that he didn't pay for the video. The label did. He didn't distribute the video. The label did. He didn't put the record up on Spotify. The label did.
And they also
okayed
it.
To me, right, he definitely okayed it. He's a victim because no one is pointing out the fact that we know in the meeting they said, we need something like this. You know what I'm saying? Like when they played the record, they said, could you do more of this?
Right.
They could have very easily said, let's do less of this. Let's not have you throwing game time. But they promoted it. So I think if she's going to charge Young Thugger, she should charge the presidents as well, because I saw Kevin Lau go in there and say, we was partners. I saw Kevin Lau say, our money, his money is my money. I saw Kevin Lau say, I've been knowing him since he was a child. Then I looked back and saw the Young Thugger was like 16 or 17 when it started. 17 years old, 18 max when it started. So now you mean to tell me that an 18-year-old got a record deal and now y'all charging him? The gang didn't exist when he got signed to the label. Remember what Tupac said? I didn't have a record till I had a record. Till I made a record. Right. So you mean he didn't have the Young Slime gang when it started? He got in a record company and then started the Young Slime gang?
Right.
That seems suspicious to me.
Right. Right.
So they should lock up some of the label execs that allow R. Kelly to operate too, huh?
Hey, drop a bomb on that.
They always, we knew. Everybody at the label, that was not a secret. Everyone knew. But from the day, the Aaliyah situation where everyone in the music business, I refused to work sexy. They tried to send me a check to work R. Kelly, and I turned it down. I've never worked an R. Kelly record. I've never even been to one of his shows because I knew. And I'm not like a psychic. I didn't know nothing special. I just knew when it happened. Right. And I said my daughter was that age. Remember, I got my daughter in Texas that was the same age as Aaliyah, so I didn't want to deal with her. And other people chose to look the other way or do whatever. But it was not a secret. The industry knew.
Hey, well, honestly, man, it blew my mind when the videotape came out and nothing happened, man.
Right.
And similarly, the same thing when Chris Brown beat Rihanna up like that. Like I'm like, yo, nothing. Like I thought he was gonna go to jail and the world was gonna stop and we never hear from him again. You know what I'm saying? But hey, society got a short memory nowadays. You know.
They just throw Breezy out there with R. Kelly like that, though.
Hey, I'm just saying, man. R. Kelly having sex with girls and Breezy punching them in the face. 50 cent one hand, $50 another.
Yeah. Well, I can't go that hard on Breezy because I remember them saying that Rihanna was from Barbados or one of them islands and that she had an attitude and liked to fight dudes.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
Yes, and then, if you remember, Chris Brown bit her on the face. I said, how did he find himself biting her on the face? They was in a Lamborghini. It's only one way, and that's because she rolled over in his lap and was in front of him fighting him, and he couldn't hit her because they in a Lamborghini. So she jumped in the front seat with him. The only thing he could do was lean forward and bite her face to get her off of him. I would argue that she probably was on him, beating him down, because she quickly said, let it go. Everybody let it go. And I blame the label again, because what was they going to the Grammys with no handlers? What was Chris Brown driving himself and Rihanna to the Grammys?
Right. Was he like 18?
In
the 90s, they never would have let no rapper, no artist drive another artist. $2 million artist driving themselves. That didn't add up to me. That was a recipe for them.
Hey, well, you know something, man? We got sidetracked into the music, but my man DL, he did a lot of research on you, Andre. And you know what I'm saying? We talking talk for a couple of weeks now because we didn't get to do this last week, and you brought up the judge, the lawyer, the person that helped you find the buildings and all that, keep things legit and
rental cars.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we're a music show, but that is part of your story, man. It's definitely a part of your story, and we ain't want to skim right over it like that.
Oh, no. I'm open to talk about whatever, I want my story to be, even when I did another podcast, I want my story to be educational, and I don't want it to be glorified, because there's nothing to glorify about the street life. There's nothing to glorify. When you're in the streets, you have to do street things, and it's nothing to be glorified of doing bodily harm to another individual. But sometimes it goes that way, and I look at it as a trap. I think it's a trap for us. And what I mean by, if you drive down the street and you see drug pushers, because you got drug dealers and then you got drug pushers. That's just like you got drug lords and you got their workers.
Right.
So in America, you got drug dealers and then you got drug pushers. That means that they're on the street pushing drugs.
Right.
So when you drive down the street, that's all you see is us.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see too many other nationalities
pushing.
Right.
Okay, so who allows the drugs to come over? Yeah. And I'm not classifying just white people, because the government is consisted of white,
it's
black,
very diverse.
It's diverse.
Yes.
But and I was talking to one of the co-hosts of the podcast, and we get caught up in saying the white people this, the white people that. It ain't just the white people. It's us that think like the white people. So you can't just classify and say, oh, the government is the white folks. No.
The white folks came up with the system.
They came up with the system.
Right.
They came up with the system
to put those in place to make this system work.
There you go.
Yes, absolutely.
There you go.
I'm with you. Absolutely.
There you go.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
My question would be, you saying not to glorify, but you talking about your re-up was 400,000. So, and that's just rounding up. If your re-up was 400,000 and you doubling or tripling your money, that means you're making almost $800,000 a week. And you are trying to tell us in radio land, just in podcast land, that that's nothing to glorify. And you expect a person who's at home right now, they can't pay their electric bill, to say, I'm gonna miss that 800,000, and that's not realistic. So when you say the bad side of it, what was the downside? Because I don't hear no downside. So what? A dude killed his wife and tried to set you up. You didn't go to jail for murder. So what happened?
I got locked up as a result of the murder.
But you went to Fed time. When I talk to people, they say the Feds is like boys camp. I never been, so I'm going. You went to boys camp, man. You making $800,000 a week.
It all depends on where you going. Now the camp, yeah, that's a boys camp. The camp is a boys club. Yeah, of course. No fence, no control movement. But when you get into the mediums and the penitentiaries, ain't no boys club. I was in a medium in Lombard. I still had to wear my boots to the shower. Now, who want to wear their boots to the shower? Take your boots off, put your shower shoes on, shower up, and then put your boots back on to walk back to your bunk or your dorm or your cell. You can't even be comfortable watching TV. You got to be strapped at all times watching TV.
Right.
You got sections now that you can and can't sit in. You got different sets. Okay, you got like in federal prison, you got inmates from all over the country. So, no, you can't sit right here. This is North Carolina table.
Wow.
You got to go over there and sit with the Georgia boys. Or you can't sit here because this is the blood table or the Crip table. Or, you got to go over there and hang out with your homeboys over there. When you go to the weight pile, you can't go out and work out with the Mexicans and whoever you think you can work out with. No, you can't do that. You got to work out with your set.
Right.
Whether if you're not a gang member, then you better go find you some homeboys. And when I was in Long Park, it was 5 people from the state of Georgia with 19 to 2,000 inmates, 1,900 to 2,000 inmates on the compound. It's 5 from Georgia. So guess what? Okay, well, so it's 5 from Georgia. Okay, who from Virginia? Who from the South?
Right.
That's who you hang with. That's who you hang with.
Right.
But now, if a war break out between the Bloods and the Latin Kings, or the Bloods and the Pisces are the Mexican set. Oh, you better go jump. You better go help your people, or we all people now. But on an ordinary day, we ain't cool.
Right.
But if you get into it and you don't help out, then guess what? You better check yourself into the hole, which is the shoe, which is segregation. Because if you don't, they gonna kill you.
Yeah, you're gonna be marked.
You're gonna be marked. So that boys club stuff, yeah, you got boys club prisons, but they count.
Ain't nobody singing songs about that though.
Huh?
Ain't nobody singing songs about that though.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You know, you see, if you look at a documentary or a movie, all you see is the drug dealers eating steak, lobster, drinking wine, driving Lamborghinis, Mercedes, and Bugattis and all that stuff. You see all that. So everybody, man, I want to live that life. But what comes behind that life? What comes behind that life? Can you really take the pressure when them people tell you, okay, you're going to do a life sentence? And when you go to the feds, when the feds tell you what you're going to do, it ain't like the state, but they try to scare you. The feds got a guideline. Mm-hmm. They got a guideline that they go by. And wherever you fall up under that guideline, that's what time you face it. It's automatically set. It's automatically set.
And you do every ounce of it.
Yeah, you do 85% of it.
Wow.
And it ain't like the state where you can go in, oh, give me 10, or give me 20, do 10, or give me 10, do 5. No. Whatever you get is 85% because there's no parole in the federal system. And they will ship you so far away from home. They supposedly got where you're supposed to be within a 500-mile radius of your residence.
Oh, wow.
But that 500 miles, that's still a long way.
Yes.
But now just say that prison is full. Oh, well, we can't send you there. I was 3,000 miles away from home.
Right.
And how long were you gone?
Well, I've done 2 prison sentences. I've done the first one was 9 years. Mm-hmm. I started out in Talladega, Alabama. I read something come and oh, that's a boys camp. It ain't no boys camp because you never know what the next man may wake up and have something on his mind. and he may snap.
Right.
And what was the 9
You
years
never,
for?
drug conspiracy to distribute 500 or more keys. Drug
Okay.
conspiracy.
Right.
So a lot of people look at, oh, he had a big drug, but see, you got categories that you fall up under.
Mm-hmm.
It's different from a conspiracy because you looking at an automatic 10 years mandatory minimum for a drug conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually had two cases which they ran them concurrent. So I had one 10-year sentence running concurrent.
Mm-hmm.
But how I wound up doing a little over 9 years is because one case was in '93. The next case was in February of '94. So even though they ran them concurrent, I still had an overlap in the sentence
Right.
because you still got to do 8.5 years. So whichever one that you got last, say like you got two 10-year sentences, but they fall 6 months apart. Instead of doing 8.5, you're gonna do 9 years
Right.
because you still got to do 8.5 on that controlling sentence.
Wow.
So yeah, so I did that. I did Talladega, and then I did Yazoo City, Mississippi. But the thing of it is if you when I first got to Yazoo City, they had people waking people up in they bunk early in the morning with a mop ringer, ringing their head off.
But this wasn't your first time going to prison or jail, was it?
Yeah,
That was the
yeah,
first
that was
time.
my first time.
But
That was my first time actually doing time.
right.
I caught two little state cases, which was cell cases, which would turn out to be I got probation for it.
Mm-hmm.
I got probation for it. So
Right. Were you prepared
yeah.
to go to prison? I mean, because you
I
went
mean,
from a couple of 8 balls to 800,000.
Right.
like this. At some point, you must have thought or knew that them people might have been watching you. Like, what is that the case?
well, this is the thing. You know, when you're in the street and you making money, you would think that okay, everybody think that they doing stuff on the down low. You doing, long as I don't get busted driving down the street, or long as I don't sell to a undercover or a CI, don't talk on the phones, and get caught up on a wiretap or what have you. See, that's state mentality thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But the feds got that conspiracy where if you got 2 or more people telling on you, you going to jail.
Mm.
Okay.
So I had got heads up because one of the guys that I had a stepfather who had plenty of women and there was plenty of kids involved. One of the children got caught up in the federal system first. And yep, the girl called me. She was like, he's going to the grand jury on you, and they finna indict you. The first thing I say was, shoot, they ain't got nothing on me. I ain't been on no phones, and I ain't sold to nobody. I don't know about this hearsay stuff as far as the feds go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to Young Thug, yeah, he has a state case as far as the RICO Act.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you think Young Thug got indicted? They didn't catch him. Somebody told on him.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But now, follow what I'm saying, and you're going to say, Dre told me this. Watch the feds come in and pick that case up because the feds have hearsay.
Mm-hmm.
the state does not have hearsay.
Hmm.
So they went back and re-indicted him, gave him some more charges of firearms and drugs, because when they arrested him, they found the drugs and firearms. So now, can the state?
He Fed eligible now.
He was Fed eligible when they picked him up on the RICO,
Mm-hmm.
but he's Fed eligible now because he got guns and drugs. So now that brings in the ATF.
Mm-hmm.
That brings in the DEA, FBI. Now, if his taxes ain't right,
Well, he had a switch on
come.
the gun too, so that's an automatic thing. He had a switch on the jump, so.
Well, yeah, and if he's a convicted felon, see, a lot of people that get caught with pistols that's convicted felons, even though the state, the police, local police pull you over, you're a convicted felon with a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, the ATF gonna come in and pick that case up and take you to the feds because it's an automatic 5 years.
Well, he had an automatic weapon, so
No, I know what you're saying, but I'm just giving examples as far as how the feds work.
Right.
So they'll let the state come and say, okay, well, yeah, we'll let them play with it a little bit,
Right.
and let them do all their investigations. Okay, now we're gonna go on down there and we're gonna tell them we finna take this case and we're gonna take all the evidence that they got and we're gonna bring it over to the federal, and all them people, the local detectives and all that stuff will wind up testifying in federal court what they found and this, that, and the other, and the feds gonna be able to say, well, he was a convicted felon with a firearm during the commission of a crime.
So you mean to tell me that young brother can beat the state charge, hire lawyers, beat the state charge, walk out the courtroom,
And the
Great
feds
thing.
snatch him.
The feds gonna snatch it before it even get that far. Watch and see what I tell y'all.
Mm-hmm.
But we as people don't think. We don't know because we're not studying, or the things that we do. We know if we get caught, okay, yeah, we going to jail. We know that. But we don't understand how the system works until we get in there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I want to educate people on how the Fed works, how the federal system works.
And if they hit him with the RICO, that means they're gonna seize his assets too, right? Or at least freeze his accounts.
Well, the thing of it is, now he got a good argument simply because now he's a rapper and he done concerts, he done got a signing bonus, he done this, that, and other. So the only way that they can seize assets is for tax evasion, tax fraud, or if he gets a drug conspiracy or a drug case that will be able to justify that he made those funds from drug dealing.
Or gang activity. Some new shit they're gonna
start. Gang activity, the feds have already said that they would leave stuff in the state court as long as you're not gang related and or connected to a cartel some kind of way. But see, they got this gang stuff down, and see when the state, say for instance, the state may say, okay, we'll give you 30 years for this RICO Act. The Fed has an automatic 30 to life with the RICO Act. And life in the Feds means life. That means you're not coming home. You're dying in prison. Ain't no parole in the federal system. So again, we running around here. We so gang infested that they do crazy crimes. I ain't gonna say dumb crimes, but they do crazy crimes and not knowing what's gonna come behind it if you get caught. Especially when you murdering people and breaking in people's houses and bodily harming them. That's where the RICO Act comes in at. Anytime you're doing a commission of a crime and you doing bodily harm, that's where the racketeering and the RICO Act come. And that's when the feds say, oh, well, yeah, we're going to make sure if you do get out, you're going to be so old to where
you can't.
You ain't going to be able to do nothing.
Yeah, you ain't doing nothing. Hey,
You ain't doing nothing.
And speaking of getting out, on the flip side of this, like you say, you want your tale to kind of be a cautionary one too. You want, let people know this ain't the way to go. And a lot of people don't understand that, even if you make millions and millions of dollars, like, you don't come out and still have millions of dollars. So what does life look? What year did you get out, and what does life look like for a man who amassed a small fortune, then coming out on the other side of the sentence?
Okay, all right. So when I got out, my stepfather had spent all my money, and I came out with $700 to my name that I made in prison. So here I am with 6 children. 6 children getting out, and now I got to sit down and figure out what I'm going to do, because now I'm thinking that my money is put up, at least majority of my money is put up, so I don't have to get back in the streets.
Right.
Or even have the mind frame of getting back in the streets.
Who told you that?
So,
who told you? Who told you? How the hell did you find out he spent all your money, and what did you do?
When I got out, I was like, where my money at?
Right.
It's gone. Oh, I'm gonna pay it back. How are you gonna pay me? How are you gonna pay me $800,000 back? How are you gonna do that? If you spent $800, how are you gonna pay it back? Because if you were gonna pay it back, you would have started been putting something back. So yeah, of course I was sick. Sold all my cars. I'm like, oh my God, I was sick.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was sick, and had to come home to because I got married when I was in prison by my one of my children's mom, and it's like I'm like, oh my goodness, what in the world am I gonna do? I got a ready-made family already.
Wait, let me clarify. You got 6 kids and how many babies, Mom?
It was 4 at the time when I got out.
You got
first.
4 women and 6 kids depending on you for their livelihood. Okay.
Mhm. So, well, again, I was I think, let's see, when I went to prison, I was 26 years old when I went to prison. So that made me get out when I was like 35.
So all
35,
this
36.
So hold on. Let's pump the brakes for a second. Okay. Now, a lot of people, they hear people in our age range talk, and, we explain stuff that happened a long time ago. And you got to understand that, when we're talking about the late 80s, early 90s, we were all young men during this time. And all this is happening. Right. These are young people we talking about making this money and making these decisions and all of this stuff. So once again, 26 years old when you went to jail, and you had a nightclub and a business worth, millions.
At that time I actually had 2 clubs at the time, because remember I told you I gave the guy the money to go down the street and get him a gay club.
Oh, right. So you're still pulling in money over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
the clubs, the judge helping with the clubs too.
Oh, you say he's still rolling in prison? So the money from the clubs was still legitimate.
Right. Right. But I'm still taking care of my responsibilities as far as children go. Okay, just give it to my baby mama. Let her, just give it to her. Let her, because she needs to take care of these kids.
Right.
So that's how I was part owner of the warehouse, because the Phoenix shut down and the guys shut down his gay club and opened up the warehouse for the Olympics.
Right. So now we talking
So
96, 97.
Exactly. So he still owe me money. So part of that is still mine. That's when Tupac came to perform at the warehouse.
Right.
So yeah, I was still getting funds while I was in prison, but I wasn't getting the money sent to me. Take care of my responsibilities out there. I'll be all right in here. You send me $200-300 a month. That's enough for me, commissary, for me to make my phone calls. I'm good.
Right. Right.
Take the rest of that, and y'all do what you gotta do. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. So what do you do to rebuild? How'd you rebuild? How you get back to how you find your comfortable spot after all of this?
Once I got out,
Mm-hmm.
I went back to the street.
Right back.
That's how I got my second Fed bid.
Oh.
That's how I got the first time I did 9 years. The second time I did 6 years. I would have done 8.5 years, but I entered the drug program, and they knocked a year and a half off of my sentence.
Right.
For taking the drug program. So a lot of people talk about Trump, but Trump actually did the federal inmates justice, because back when I was doing time, we were supposed to be getting 54 days a year good time. But the government was tricking us, and they wasn't giving you a good time until you serve after the first year that you served. And then they were only giving us 47 days.
So this part of the reform that
part
Kim
of the
Kardashian
reform.
and all them fought for, and the lady
Yep.
that got right.
Yep. So now the reform is everybody who was still incarcerated and still had those 20, 30-year sentences, they got the extra 7 days times that 20 or times that 30. Now that don't seem like a long time.
Yeah, but it's a whole hell of a lot if you waiting to get out.
But it
Right.
adds up. And then he put the programs in that if you take a certain amount of programs, you will get extra days per month going towards your good time. So it's cutting the sentence short. Now that provided that you don't have any violence in your conviction. So you got different, just like I say, you got different statutes in the federal system. And if you fall under the RICO Act, you're definitely not eligible for those programs. If you got a racketeering, you're definitely not eligible for those programs. If you got a 924C, which is possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, then you ain't eligible for that program.
Right.
But now if you got a 924A, which is possession of a firearm, then you eligible for the program. So it's a trip because the feds don't classify guns as a violent crime until you are committing a crime with that pistol. So that means that if you got drugs and a pistol together, that's a violent crime.
Right.
Because they're saying your intentions are violent.
Right.
So yeah, drugs is a nonviolent crime, period. No matter how you look at it. Drugs is a nonviolent crime. Classified as a nonviolent crime.
So that second stint, you learned your lesson after the second stint, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, because I got caught up. I was the only one out of Georgia. My case came out of Fort Worth because the guys that I was dealing with, their phones was tapped. So I got caught up in their conspiracy in Fort Worth, Texas.
Jeez.
And that's when they sent me way to Lompoc. They sent me way out there. Like, okay, well, we got something for you. We're gonna send you out here.
Hold it. I need you to clarify because I'm one of them people that's just listening at home. So you want us to believe that of the two things you did drug-wise, you never got caught on your own. It would have been a judge who tried to kill his wife that brought you down the first time, and somebody else's wife that brought you down the second time.
Yes.
So then, if I'm a young man out here, I'm saying, well, I did everything right. And you saying you could do everything right and still end up doing.
Oh yeah, you still can get caught up. You still can get caught up because you think you're doing things right, but when your buddy get knocked off and he go to telling on you, or if your buddy phone tap and you talking to him and y'all talking about business, yeah, of course, you going down.
But everybody talked to the police at some point. It seemed like.
Well, that's what's going. But see, you got people saying, okay, well, I ain't no snitch, I ain't this, I ain't that. But then you got a lot of gang members that's getting locked up that's supposed to be tough on the street, but they telling their partners. That's how they knocking all these gang members out. These people not catching these people red-handed. How many cases that you see where they catch a gang member in the act? I mean, yeah, they do catch them in the act, but the ones that might be done something 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're gonna lock you up because you was in a shootout or you shot this person 3 years ago, and we got somebody who gonna identify you or tell that you were with them when this happened or they were with you.
Yeah, it's a domino effect.
Right.
Domino effect. Yeah, you just get one dude who don't want to, just want a little time off, and everybody telling on each other. Man, I got a little information.
Everybody telling on each other, and then you got them running around separating people. He can't go over here because his co-defendant telling on him, so he can't go to this prison or he can't go to this jail. We got to send him somewhere else. Why is Young Thug way out there in Cobb County? And his cases in Atlanta. They got him in Cobb County, Georgia, which ain't but about 20 minutes away from Fulton County Jail. But why ain't he over there in Fulton County where his case is?
Well, they say because he's a dangerous person. That's what they keep saying.
Okay, so I don't care if a person is dangerous. I don't give a darn what jail you put him in. They dangerous. So even if he's dangerous, they got dangerous criminals down at the Fulton County jail.
Absolutely. I mean, I get what you're saying.
So,
I was being,
yeah,
sarcasm.
I know. Yeah, I know. I know. But it's funny for real. But just look at how they do divide and conquer. That whole system is about dividing and conquering.
Yep.
Even if you get out, I don't fool with him because he a snitch or what have you. They turn you against each other. They separate you so far that you out of sight, out of mind, even with family, children. Because true fact, how many women don't stick by their man over, I give them a year and a half.
Yeah.
I want to ask that question. Hold it. Because your first bid was 15 years or 9 years.
9 years.
You had 4 baby mamas. How many of them stuck by you? That's a good question.
How about I don't do no answer?
Yeah, you ain't got to answer.
Would that answer the question? Would that answer the question? Would that answer the question?
Yeah.
So tell me this: after all said and done, how you getting by now?
Well, I'm doing a little credit repair
Right.
to make ends meet. I'm also trying to put this documentary together so we can take it to the network. Of course, family members help out. I got pretty good family members to help out.
Hey, that's awesome, man. I tell you
That's what my goal.
when when you get a name, if you got a name for a documentary, let us know. And if you don't, as soon as you do, let us know, man. Give us a release date and all that. We're gonna promote heavily, man.
Ashes to abundance.
Ashes to abundance. Ashes to abundance. Hey, all listeners, pay attention. Ashes to abundance. And that's why, I've already, me and DL, we listened to your whole story and we studied and did a lot of research. And Tommy also told me that you had a documentary coming. And so, like I said, I'm glad we talked the way we talked today because you got a lot of story left. And we had a good long conversation, but we're not giving away too much of the good stuff. So the documentary's still gonna be great.
This was the biggest case in federal Georgia history in 1993 to 1995.
Right.
So this is, we're talking about a piece of history right here. And like I said, and it totally ties into what we always talk about here. So, man, I really appreciate you coming and bringing your story to us, man. I couldn't thank you enough. The time together, man. Fat Tommy, Andre Willis, man. My hat's off to both of you guys, man.
Yes,
we
sir.
really appreciate y'all coming through and burning it down with us on the Capital City podcast. It's Capital J, main man,
DL Glass.
and we out. This is Capital City with Capital J.